My name's Scott. I'm an addict. It's so cool to see new people come in and really grab onto the program. Along this journey of being clean, we struggle. And we go and, we have these valleys, peaks and valleys, and, we're able to... there's a lot going on up here. We're able to walk through it. I was at a meeting last night, and there was like a popsicle stick meeting, and one of the topics was perseverance. And anything can happen. I was saying that to somebody today because someone at my work just quit because she couldn't handle the emotional and the mental abuse anymore. And that's really sad. This is my family-owned company, And, there's stuff that I can do, but I can't make my dad address, another employee, someone that oversees a lot of different departments. And there's not, I wish I could do more, but I just really can't. I can't, and I'm stuck in this weird place in that area. And, I was talking to this coworker, and I said, anything can happen, I was in a very similar situation with her. She's an excellent employee, but her boss was someone that wasn't suited for that position, But I encouraged her, and I tried, and I told her to hang on, but she had just had enough. And this was a couple years ago, but she hung in there. But I personally had to get to a place where I was willing to just let go and accept the fact that she was looking for a different job, and she was going to move on, and we were going to lose a solid employee. And we're really close friends. And when I did that, I had some relief over the situation, and I didn't walk around with frustration and anger towards my dad, towards the situation, just towards it all. And a few months later, the other woman stepped down from her position, and this other woman took the position, and everything ended up being okay. So along the way with this other employee, I've had to, it's hard to just accept. It's hard. Acceptance is so hard sometimes. And taking a step back and letting go and letting God and just being able to just do your part and let God take care of the rest. Anything can happen. I thought that the other one would have left and quit, and it would have just ended up that way. But I'm not God, even though a lot of the times I think that I am. Like I just know some shit. I just know things are going to happen this way, and a lot of the time they don't. And but this other employee did quit, and she's not with the company anymore. And I hope that things change. Because I don't want to see her leaving, like just completely go away and vanish, and as if she was never there. And I'm afraid that that's going to happen. Like this, I want there to be consequences for this other manager, and they just don't seem to happen. It's not going the way that I want it to. I don't have control over it the way that I'd like, and it's really frustrating. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I didn't really plan on starting that way, but that's what I'm going through at the moment and dealing with those feelings. So when I did the resentment section of my 4-step, I found out that a lot of people that I resented had the same qualities that I did. And they did a lot of the same things I did. They lied, they cheated, they stole. And that was hard to face because I was okay with it's their fault. I can blame them. They're fucked up, and I don't have to look at myself. And I carried around so much anger with me in my life towards all these other people, and I came to realize that I always told myself, I don't want to be that guy. I'm not going to be that guy. and I ended up being that guy. And I did it, it was a repetitive thing that happened in a lot of areas of my life. Recovery is an active change in our ideas and attitudes, right? So I've got this resentment towards this other employee. But then there's that other thought that says, why don't you pray for him? What the fuck, what is that about? That's recovery. That's an active change in my ideas and my attitudes towards life, towards other people. And it wouldn't be that way without Narcotics Anonymous and without working a program, without going to meetings and writing on steps and getting a sponsor and being of service. I've learned so much along the way that naturally my thoughts have changed over time. And I'm grateful for that because I don't have to carry around resentment anymore. I can do things like pray for someone or talk to my sponsor about it and get some relief. And I just don't have to live the way that I used to live. And and I'm grateful for that. I thought that my story was unique when I got here. I thought that I didn't belong because y'all had used harder drugs than I did. Y'all had reached lower bottoms. Y'all had more hardcore stories, I felt like. And I felt as though it was another place that I didn't fit in because I really wasn't ready to look for the similarities. I still saw all the differences between you guys than me. The age was an issue. I thought that I wasn't done yet. You all had put your time in, and I really wasn't ready to recover. So I found all the differences between everybody in this room than me, and I told myself I didn't belong here. And that kept me using. I had to come in and get my piece of paper signed, and it kept me on the run. I just wasn't prepared at that point. And I bring that up because I felt like that growing up. I longed to be a part of something. To be a part of the cool kids. I wanted to be someone different. I didn't really feel like I belonged anywhere, and I didn't feel a part of, and I didn't like the way that I looked, and I didn't. I looked at everybody else, and I felt like they were smarter and more brave, and I was full of like fear and like just anxiety and worry about what people thought. And, I bounced around from different schools a lot as a kid. So, like, I didn't ever really find a group of friends that I fit in with, I felt like I was on the outside looking in most of my life. And there were moments growing up where I felt bullied, like people, like I took things to heart. When someone would make fun of me, whether it was my clothes or something I did, or like they laughed at me, man, I took that, it cut me to the core, because I feel like I've had these defects with me all along the way. My pride and my ego, when I get embarrassed, I get angry, and I flare up, and I get in the resentment, it's coming if you embarrass me, that's, unless I address it, that's what's going to happen. And so, in school, kids are mean, and thing is that I ended up being that mean kid, right? So I took it out on people in my neighborhood, younger kids. I took it out on my family, my cousin. I bullied my cousin a lot, and my little brother. He's 9 years younger than me, and I picked on him. Because like it was like in school settings, I felt so weak and kind of like insecure. But then around at home and in the neighborhood, and like I felt like I had some control and some power, right? So it's just so strange how like I resented so many people for the exact same things that I was doing, but I was completely unaware. Like I had no idea that I was doing the same things. My parents, they got a divorce when I was about 11 or 12. That was tough. I spent a lot of nights like just kind of crying alone, feeling like just powerless. I got really angry at my mom. I had never seen my dad. Like my dad was like my hero, you know what I mean? He never showed weakness. He was like it seemed like invincible, really. Like, didn't show emotions, and that's who I wanted to be like that. But like, I was sensitive, and like, I was emotional, and so I hate all that stuff to like be somebody I wasn't, and that's who I went through life not based on like how I was feeling. I went all in here, all in my head, and trying to figure out, okay, this is what I need to do and what I don't need to do to just manage and get through life. And I really messed things up living that way, and I still do today when I try and do that. So I saw him like cry, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, this doesn't happen, like, and then there was another guy that showed up in my mom's life, like right in the same time that all that was happening, and and my family, my family's wealthy, and I had a hard time with that as a kid, and when I came into the rooms, like I struggled with that, like with the fact that like I came from a family that had money, like that was an issue for me. It's like I always wanted to be and fit in and be like other people, and like if I felt like I was out of the ordinary or whatever, like I would hide it or lie about it or like not exaggerate on it. Like I don't know, I just lie basically. I would lie about it, whether it was omission or whatever. So I saw my dad in like this tiny little apartment, and it broke my heart. Like I was so angry, and it just wasn't my dad, and so they split up, and I was with my mom, and then I was with my dad, and the whole divorce thing, mom, dad, and my dad was a totally different person for a while. He had a lot of girlfriends, you know what I mean? He was drinking a lot. I saw a whole different side to him that I had never seen before. And I didn't really understand it. I didn't know what was going on. I was living with my grandparents, but my mom was living there, and we were bouncing around from different houses and stuff. And and I did well in school, but when I got into high school, I still just, I longed to be a part of more and more and more as I grew up. I looked at these other kids, and they seemed like they were having fun and enjoyed each other's company, and they were cool, and I wanted to be at that lunch table, you know what I mean? I was over here, and I looked at all of them, and I wanted to do that, and I met a few kids, and I got really into like video games and stuff, and that was really, that was a lot of fun, and I finally felt like kind of a part of. And then it was like sophomore, junior year is when I started drinking, and then it was like, okay, this is cool. I'm able to kind of like escape some feelings, and I'm able to be with a different crowd. And then like these people realized like that, and I realized that my mom was gone on most weekends with her boyfriend in Tampa. And so I just started throwing parties at my house all the time, and next thing you know, like I was fucking cool, at least in my mind, I felt like on the outsider, and then I was in the middle of it. And people were asking me, is your mom out of town this weekend? And like, what are we doing? What's going on? And it was all of a sudden a big party, and it was fucking awesome. And I was happy about it, like thrilled, right? I was happy to be the center of attention, I was like what I longed for. And so I got in a bunch of trouble, but I think that I've made amends to my mom, and I've been through that process, and we talk, and I took advantage of her, because she felt guilty about what happened with my dad and this other man coming into her life at the same time while all that stuff was happening, and I took advantage of it. She'd catch me all the time and like slap me on my wrist, and she'd go out of town, and I'd do it again, and I enjoyed getting high. I enjoyed partying. It wasn't like immediate destruction for me, But what did start happening is I started lying a lot, and all of a sudden a lot of things became secrets, and I became, I had always had like a little mischief side of me where I like being sneaky, and I like knowing that I did something that no one else knew about, and all that, and it kind of fed like my ego, and I liked those feelings that came from it, and so using and like running from the law, and partying and I was doing a bunch of shit that like was illegal, and and all of a sudden, like, I got a girlfriend, and it was the first person that like that I loved, you know what I mean? And man, I was oblivious to like what I was getting myself into. She had a boyfriend, and like she was unhappy, and she started pursuing me, and I said, okay, that's not right. I realize today, like, that's not right. But I built a lot of resentments coming out of that. And I thought about that earlier. How has my dishonesty contributed to my resentments? And that's it. I was dishonest with myself and my behaviors and what I was doing. That getting into a relationship with someone that's already in one is not okay. And then I was like, I didn't understand why this guy was like pissing on my car, like why he was like showing up, like he was on the baseball team, and like we're here in Polk County and they got these huge trucks and I'm partying at my mom's house and I hear the trucks coming. And this was something that happened on a regular basis, like they were coming down the street because I had taken this guy's girlfriend, you know what I mean? And like, it was crazy. Like I had to have people at my house because I was subject to getting into a fight on a regular basis. I don't fight. That's not me. Like I've never been into a fight other than like accidentally like hitting someone like Hey Arnold style, like over my shoulder, and like busting his nose, like it really wasn't intentional. He was just pissing me off, and that's what happened. So like I had people like to protect me really, I had built like a strong group of friends, and a lot of them were a lot older than me. And, man, just some crazy, just the madness that we get ourselves into. And, I found that, like, I started losing friends, or people stopped wanting to kind of they didn't want to hang out with me anymore, some of my friends. Because I would black out and I'd get into a state where I would just, if I was at their house, I'd break things, and the cops would get called. And so my group of friends started getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and it was their fault. They're not cool, you know what I mean? I like doing drugs. They don't like the drugs that I'm doing, and they're cutting me out, and like fuck them, and I lived that lifestyle. I push people away, In that pamphlet, Self-Acceptance, it talks about rejecting others before they have a chance to reject us. And that's what I did. Whenever I felt like I was on the verge of being rejected, I went ahead and I blocked you out of my life. And, so I got arrested for the first time, and that was pretty uncomfortable, and I got into a little bit of trouble for that. And but my dad hired a really good lawyer, so like I didn't have to go to any meetings for a long time. Like he kept saying that like it kept getting delayed like month after month, or for almost a year and a half. Like he handles murder case, like trials and stuff like that. Like so it kept getting pushed off. It was pretty irrelevant to him, and like I was okay. But I was still a little uneasy about, like, am I going to get drug tested? Because he told me I was going to, but I never ended up, But I still lived as if, it didn't matter, like it wasn't going to happen. And but that was my, like, first introduction to some meetings. And that was when I was 19. And but I moved up to Gainesville, and all that was a big party. I just progressed in my using. I was finally in a place in my own apartment that I could just use all day, every day, and that's what I did, And I got to a point where I was really desperate. Like I knew that the life that I was living was wrong, like lying to my parents about my grades. I had already dropped out of school, didn't tell them at that point. Like, like this isn't, something ain't right here. I've got some friends that aren't addicts that are like, get tore up, but then they go to class and they do well. And like, I'm like, I don't understand that. Like, they're like, I'm going to go home, man, like, and leave a beer, I have, drank beer at the bar and then go home, and like, I'd finish it for them and like, okay, let's go. And, that's kind of the way I operated. I didn't really understand it. And, so I came back to Lakeland after, just this experience where like, I felt so alone, and all of a sudden I was in my car and I didn't feel alone anymore. And I can't really explain it more than that, but I realized like it was God and like somehow like intervened. Like we all at some point experience some sort of intervention, whether it be the judge, jail, an institution, a death of a family member, a death of a close friend, from using. There's something that happens and something intervenes and it changes. And so something happened that day, and I no longer felt like I started to feel like what I was doing was wrong, truly wrong. And every time I'd get high, I would think about like, no, this isn't okay. Like, I experienced something that day that was greater than myself, that told me I wasn't alone, and I didn't feel alone anymore. But I kept using, But I'd have periods of abstinence, because like I knew I needed to get clean, but I'm like, if I do this is something like for the rest of my life. I don't think I'm done. Like, I don't think I can handle that, not using ever again. And I couldn't really get over that, Like, I'd put a couple months together, and I was okay, and I started feeling better, and like my relationship improved with my girlfriend at the time, and like my family was like proud of me, and they're like, oh, you're doing good. And I'd go to a meeting every once in a while because I was still showing up, because like I didn't know if I was going to get drug tested. Like, I was in this weird freaking place, like just a very strange place. But I'd always end up using again, like I could get clean for a little bit, but I'd pick up, I had no foundation, I wanted to get clean my way, which was without you all, I didn't want any help getting clean. I was going to do it on my own, and I kept failing, and I ran from this disease, and I ran from my family, and I didn't get very far. So I thought that I needed another geographical change, so I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. Didn't know anybody. Living without any care at all. I didn't care about my life. I didn't care about anything. I had completely numbed myself out at that point. And, I got robbed. Just the war stories, the things that happen, like inactive addiction. I reached places that I couldn't believe. I can't believe today that I reached, and it almost doesn't seem real, because it was 8 years ago. At least at this point, I have 6 years clean today, but 8 years ago is kind of when I was in this, or 7 years ago in this state, even getting arrested again and going through just being afraid for my life. Didn't do it. But I came back to Lakeland, back to Florida, gonna get clean. Okay. Go to some meetings. All right. I'm clean for a little while. Still only just going to a few meetings. And then I'd been clean, I think, for like 2 months. And I went to a Rays game. And I got tore up. And it was all day just obsessing. Strong. That desire was so strong. And I was like fighting it off, But I had no program. I had no foundation. So I blacked out drunk that night, and but I cried, man, because like I'd been fighting this for a long time, fighting it, wanting to get clean, but not wanting to do it y'all's way, and being scared, just scared to make a change. Getting clean was terrifying. Like, what is it? What is this gonna look like? What is my life gonna look like? Not using drugs anymore, and. Came back, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do a few more things this time. So I got a sponsor so that I could tell people that I had a sponsor. I went to a few more meetings a week than I was. I talked to people a little bit. Like, I'd hang around maybe after the meeting for a little while, and I'd say hello, and I, like, okay, things are getting better. And I had 5.5 months clean. There's something about like 5 months and that blue key tag. And people fall off. Like, I see this regularly. They don't get there, and they leave. And that's exactly what happened to me. It was like I wasn't 100% ready and committed to do everything that you all were telling me to do. And I came into the program in a very unhealthy, sick, twisted relationship with a woman, and full of lies and cheat and just the deception, just everything that happens in a sick and unhealthy relationship. And I remember being clean. I hadn't relapsed yet, but I was only a week away from relapsing. But I had, she was living in Tallahassee, I was here, and I went to visit her, and I carpooled with her roommate's boyfriend. He was getting high at his house, he was getting high on the way up, and I was like, I'm clean, like, I got this, like, strong, I held strong, I'm good, I got this, made it up there, clean, even went to a meeting. See, like, I was so on the edge, like, ready to commit, but like I couldn't do it, like on the edge. And I got there and I went to a meeting, and I'm feeling like strong about it. I'm feeling good about it, you know what I mean? Like, but it was a lot of ego. Like, I'm better than these people that are using. I'm clean now. And I made it through the weekend, came home. A week later, I was trying to get that guy's number, and like I got it, I figured it out and I got high, it wasn't long after that. Because I took some suggestions. At that point, I had deleted everybody's number out of my phone. I had got rid of all of it. And just like, it was like it's game time again. And so, May 21st, 2012, came in that door, sat in that seat where Heidi is, and I let it out, and I cried, and I said, I need y'all's help, like, I'm desperate, I don't know what else to do, and, people came up to me, and they gave me hugs, and I had been in and out for a little while, and I was ashamed to come back, and fearful of what you all would think about me, and all that nonsense, and all you did was welcome me with open arms, and say, I'm glad you're back, and I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for that. And, my sponsor, he stepped up to me and asked me, am I willing to do whatever it takes to get and stay clean? And I wasn't really sure, but I said okay, and I just started following the way. I started finally following some suggestions and doing what you all said worked. And I didn't just do a little bit. I did it all. I dove into the program finally, and I built that foundation. Man, so much has happened over the past 6 years. There's some things that I don't want to miss, and I put a few things down because they're highlights of my recovery, and things that have happened along the way. I was given a few speaker CDs when I was new, and I listened to them over and over and over again, and they helped me, And one of those speakers, they were two different CDs, but both of them have been at Hackna since I got clean. One of them I got to introduce, like, how's that even possible that I'd get to do, something like that? This guy named Sean, like, his story was so moving, so inspiring, and I still listen to it to this day. And he came and he spoke at Hackna, and like, at that point I had like maybe a year to 2 years clean. He was like my idol, you know what I mean? He was like the recovery god, like he was the one, and it was like, can I get your autograph? I was so excited, you know what I mean? And like, because I was excited about recovery, at that point I was passionate about recovery. I was working some steps. I was meeting my sponsor up at Starbucks on a regular basis, and I was all about it. Like I said, I had dove into the program, I held off, and I got stuck in the 4-step, and I got into a couple relationships. I got into a relationship with someone who just died like January 2nd of this year, but this was 4 years ago. And she died as a result of this disease. And I went to her funeral. And that was hard. But I'm glad that I was able to be a part of it. Another person, she went back out and, I'm not going to get into that. It's too personal. But I was going through the 4th step and a lot of feelings started coming up, and I wanted to run. And so I started searching and I started finding ways to fill that void and escape those feelings. And I got freaking crazy, and it was a weird time in my recovery. But, one thing that my sponsor has said to me all along the way is that I am persistent. And I do a lot of harm to myself, but I keep fighting and I keep moving forward, and I don't use, and I just don't stop. I don't use, I'm in the recovery process, and I'm on the road, and I'll go around and I'll venture off into the woods, but I've managed to find my way back to the road for a while now. I've been able to be of service, and I'm grateful that my sponsor kind of dragged me into service. I started out in PR, and I'd pick him up from his place, and we'd go to the meetings over in Winter Haven, and that's how it all started. And it started early in my recovery. And it started with making coffee and doing, just what we do, and when it comes to service. And I've moved a long way. I've moved a long way in service. It's kept me plugged in at times when I didn't want to be here anymore, when I had just been over the recovery process. But I had a commitment. I've always had a service commitment. And when I've wanted to run and that commitment has whatever commitment it was at the time, it's kept me here when I needed it. And so yesterday I'm at Region, and I'm the representative of our area right now. And so what that means is I go and I share with them the awesome things that Activities is doing right now. I share with them how much PR is kicking ass. We've got bus placards up. We've got PSAs going. We're going and putting books in libraries. We're doing big things here, and I get to share that, with you, with our region, with other areas. There was an ad hoc committee that just finished the GSR orientation, and it's freaking awesome. And yesterday I got to read that there. And people were like, wow, that's really cool. Like, that's great. And it is, I'm like excited, and I'm proud to be a part of the Heartland area, as much as sometimes I get frustrated with the people in the Heartland area. If I look at it as a collective, it looks nice. As long as I keep it there, it's great. It does. Don't get hung up on certain, personalities. But So I went from this kid that's so insecure and afraid to speak up, and I felt like no one wants to hear what I have to say. And today, I have some integrity, and I was there a few months ago, and this woman was running for a position, right? And there was a lot of personality going on in this decision whether or not we were going to vote her in as a FRCNA board member or something like that. And, people step out of the room and we vote, and then the discussion happens about it. And apparently she had dropped out of a couple service commitments, and people were in an uproar about that. And it just turned into something, into something it really shouldn't have, in my opinion. And so she came back into the room, And the vote was no. You didn't get the position. But before they had said that, I was really honing in on what the facilitator of Region and the other people that were tallying the votes, what they were saying. And when I heard the number of yeses and nos, it didn't make sense to me. Like, there has to be a 2/3 majority for this person to get elected. And when they said it, I questioned it, on the floor. And this is an intimidating group of people. I mean, we're talking several people with 30 plus years. At least it's intimidating to me. And a whole lot of people don't speak up. It's usually the same people that talk. And so I said, can you guys recount that? I don't think that that's right. They recounted it and they were wrong. And she got elected into the position. And every time I see this woman, she comes up to me, and hugs me, and she says, like, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so passionate about this position that I wanted so bad, and if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have got it. And she's like, I don't even know your name, but I pray for you every day. And there's no way that I could have done that, I don't know how long ago, but, I was able to do that this past year, and I'm grateful, because the rooms have taught me to be courageous, to stand up, even if you are the lone voice. If you feel as though something isn't right, stand up and say something about it, and I'm not perfect at it, because there are a lot of times where I choose not to, but I have to live with that, and I'm not okay with it, but I grow and I make the decisions when I do, to stand up. The only other thing I'd like to share is about work, and when I was using, I started with work, I'll finish with work. Even though I didn't intend to start that way. When I was using, I no-called and no-showed on a regular basis. It's my dad's company. He didn't fire me, A lot of people didn't respect me. I didn't deserve their respect. They didn't trust me. I didn't deserve their trust. I wasn't trustworthy. I was getting high in the warehouse, I walked around with a pipe in my pocket and was like pulling orders, putting them on the shipping rack, or the shipping line, and then getting getting high in the back. Like, that's what I did. Completely unaware of anyone there or anything else. It was just get high and make it through the day, and like, it's all about me. I've grown a lot since I got clean, and that growth has carried over into my work, and I've put a lot into it over the past 6 years, and I've changed, and my relationships with the people there, including my dad, have changed, and I'm a manager now, so I have a couple people in my department that I oversee, and but I've built relationships, and I've earned people's trust, by being there every day, or like when I'm supposed to be there. It's not just that, treat me better because I'm not getting high in the warehouse anymore. People come in and they talk about I'm not doing this anymore, so they should be treat me better, or they should trust me now. No, the amends process isn't just about not getting high in the back warehouse. It's about treating people differently, acting differently, respecting myself, respecting the company, respecting the people there. And so we did a 360 survey at my job where the leadership / management team and also my employees answered some questions about we're doing this core value process about integrity, about respect, about leadership, about teamwork, and about quality. And these are our core values at the company. And so when we look at these core values, we did a 360 survey on one another, and we kind of got rated on some areas. And I just want to read this last thing. So it was one of those that said like one was like doesn't do it at all, and 5 is like he does this a lot, like all the time, or this is like one's the lowest, 5 being the best. And there were maybe like 30 different questions, and this was the one that I was ranked the very highest on as far as like, yes, this is who he is. This is what he's like, this is the way they see me, you know what I mean? And it was better than all the rest. And it was, he establishes an environment of trust through honesty, respect, open-mindedness, and fairness. And that's the way the people there see me now, And that's because of recovery and my willingness to work to be a part of this program and y'all's help. I would not be there today. And I'm so thankful, like I can't believe it sometimes that they see me that way. And I'm grateful. I'm just grateful. So that's all I got. Thanks for letting me share.